Hello and welcome to the final episode of season 3 of Quickies with Angela and Caity. What a year it has been.
I'm Angela Dawn of Authentic Heart Coaching. I'm a tantric sex coach and I help couples get closer.
And I'm Caity Wilkinson of Caity Coaches. I'm a sex, love, and relationship coach, and I can help you bring more pleasure to your partnership by bringing more pleasure to yourself. For today's holiday episode, we thought it would be fun to get into it with a spirited discussion about topics that Angela and I don't see eye to eye on. We're both sex coaches. We both had the same Vita sex coach training, but that does not mean that we share the same opinions about all of sex. And we think our differences make it extra spicy to work together. So, Angela, let's have at it.
Yes, let's go. I mean, many of us go home for the holidays and get to have experiences with our family of origin, and their views just might not align with our own, especially these days. So this can often lead to heated discussions around the dinner table. So this episode, where we go over topics where we don't agree, seem to be kind of thematic of the holidays. I know usually I have quite the slide deck for our holiday episode, but this time is a little different. I do have my usual holiday lingerie on to record today, but we're doing something a little different.
We are indeed, and I've got my velvet caftan. It's showing up black on camera, but I promise it's a deep, rich green and feeling the festivities here. So you are all welcomed to our proverbial dinner table. And there are going to be quite a few topics that we could cover too, because we are very different people. Actually, when we started preparing for this episode, we jotted down a list and it was hard to narrow it down to what to talk about. For example, Angela, you're basically a switch when it comes to kink, and I'm a dom. You enjoy giving blowjobs. I absolutely hate them. I'm monogamous. You're not. I require condoms, and shall we say you don't?
There's some nuance there. Yeah. Maybe we don't need to list everything we disagree on, Caity.
But we did narrow it down to 3 or 4 big topics for us, and we'd like to go ahead and just dive right in. So, first things first, let's talk about lube.
Yes. Well, when it comes to lube, we do agree that everyone should use it. And I just want to say the number of clients and prospective clients I meet with and talk to that don't use lube, it is alarming. It's really everyone should use it.
Absolutely. It's only adding a positive.
Absolutely.
And I will say what we don't agree on here is the favorite kinds of lube. For me, I prefer water-based formulas because they are universally condom safe, they're toy safe. You don't have to worry about silicone possibly degrading your silicone toys, especially if you're a toy person like me, or about oil degrading your latex condoms. It's just easy peasy with a water-based formula. And the brand I love most for that is Sliquid. I've been using them exclusively for years. They're by women, for women, with vulva-safe formulas and clean ingredients, which is huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sliquid is a really good brand. I actually like their feminine wash, but that's another story. We haven't gotten into that. But in terms of lubricants that I like and recommend, the workhorse of my lubricant world is just from Whole Foods. It is the 365 brand fractionated coconut oil. I don't get any kickbacks for telling you about this. It's cheap. It's like 25 bucks for this whole big bottle that'll last you a long, long time. And it is what I use in my Tantra massage workshops. So I pour that lube into small containers and give them out to the folks that are participating in the workshop to use. It is great for Tantra massage. Because it's fractionated, it doesn't smell like coconut oil. It stays liquid at room temperature, and it's just a great massage oil, and it works great for non-condom lubrication for sex, in my experience as well.
And
Along,
I do agree with any kind of like that nut oil. It's going to be body safe. Like those are fantastic for massages.
Yeah, actually, great for massages. I also think it makes great lube. But if you want to take that coconut oil concept and kick it up a notch, ooh, I have kind of like the creme de la creme of lubes to recommend for you here. This is Foria Intimacy Oil. It is the fractionated coconut oil, but it's got CBD in it, right? So if you are comfortable using oil-based lubricant, you're with a partner that you are safe not using a condom with, this just will knock your socks off because the CBD being included in the lube really adds to a woman's ability to relax and experience. So you're kind of getting this like extra boost by using that Foria CBD intimacy oil. That company Foria also has these intimacy melts that are CBD. They're just coconut oil and CBD, and you keep them in the fridge. And if you pop one of those inside about a half an hour before sex, you are good to go and you're more relaxed, right? So I recommend those intimacy melts for folks that have trouble with vaginal lubrication. If you're aging and that's something that you're facing, the CBD melt is a great preparation. And you'll see in the show notes the links to get a hold of that. Now, if you don't want an oil-based lube, and I would say the non-oil-based lubes are especially great for anal sex. My favorite for that is Uberlube. And I just have my sample or my travel size Uberlube right here today. How sexy is that? So I love that it comes in a travel size. You can buy a big bottle of it too. But for the travel size, it comes in this discreet case that you can get in all these different colors. And then you just have a little jar of the Uberlube and you can replace it in your travel case. I've had this travel case of Uberlube and been refilling it for literally years. Amazing stuff. This is what I take when I travel. And I also just take my, oil-based lubes and put them into smaller containers, for your TSA requirements or to fit in your bag. So, those are my favorites. And I think everybody should explore, what works for them. You have to worry about what's condom safe and definitely educate yourself on that and make your own choice about whether you want a water-based product like Caity recommends or more of an oil or silicone-based product.
Absolutely. And Uberlube is one of the biggest known names in the industry. That's pretty classic for if you're looking to explore different silicone varieties. And that case is gorgeous. It matches my lipstick, my headband. It looks like a tube of lipstick. That's so inconspicuous.
Yeah, and so I'll have a link to my Uberlube connection and the Foria. You definitely get 20% off if you use my link. So that's worth knowing if you want to explore the CBD lube. Yeah.
Fun stuff there. And I know with a lot of lubes, you really don't need that much. So it kind of depends. With water-based ones, I tend to use more and be a lot more generous with them. You'll also want to be a lot more generous if you're doing something like anal. But in general, if you're using silicone lube for something like vaginal, one drop of Uberlube, I do know that goes very, very far.
Uberlube goes a long way. I find that the regular fractionated coconut oil also really goes a long way. The one thing I'll say is, yes, the water-based lubes kind of, you have to replenish, right? You have to keep
I was
adding.
going to say that they are more likely to, let's say, dry out in use, but it's just you add more moisture. You add more lube in it. Wake
Also
it back up
say that as someone who squirts like Niagara Falls, even oil-based lube you need to reapply, right? Because you can literally squirt it all away. So just, one of these days I'm going to come out with a lube holster that fits to your nightstand or your headboard. It's coming one of these days because you
One of
got.
these days, we might also need an episode just about squirting. I know that's something people ask about a lot.
Yeah, all right, noted. But since we're talking about lube, let's get right into sexy time. Move on to toys. We have some slight differences in what we like in that regard. I mean, I'm basically a kind of a sex without toys gal, right? I like manual stimulation, versus vibrating toys, right? So, I like if I'm using a toy, I like a glass wand or a glass butt plug, right? Like these are the kind of toys that I mostly prefer, but it wasn't always this way. So, Katie, do you remember when we were training with Layla Martin and at the beginning of the training, she told us we had to put away our toys? I don't remember how long she said, like 6 months or, the
I
whole
think it was for the duration of the training, so it was probably the entire time. And for me, that was the first time I'd ever gone without since I started using them. So that was a big change. It was like a complete detox reset.
same. In fact, I was like losing my mind when she said that. I was like, oh my God, I signed up for this training and I can't use my toys. How is this gonna work? I lost it, right? But
I feel like that's when men sign up for our stamina program. And in the beginning, we say, hey, try to avoid porn for the next 5 days. And some of them just lose their mind.
right. But, I did what I was told to do. I was like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. I'm going to put my toys away. And oh my gosh, what I was able to learn about my own body and the way that I was able to expand my own orgasm by learning without toys was mind blowing. And now I suggest this to my clients too, based on their goals. It depends on what your goals are. But if you're a woman that's trying to learn how to have different kinds of orgasms and more expansive orgasms, put the toys away and explore without them for a fixed period of time. Once you get there and you have made that progress, then you can bring the toys back judiciously. And oh my God, then you're having like full body energy orgasms with the cherry on top of your vibrator, right? And it's a whole different world, right? So I'm not going to say that I never use vibrators, right? Like sometimes they're fun, right? But in terms of being able to expand your sexuality, much better off with, the healthy glass toy than relying on vibration. That's
In
my
general, I have to admit, I tend to agree with most of that too. I mean, in the program, I absolutely did not want to give up vibrators, but then the longer that I went without them, the more I was like, oh, I get it now. I'm actually getting more acquainted with my own body in a way that I wouldn't have because I had always relied on the ease and convenience of a vibrator.
yeah.
And even though I absolutely use them now. Like, I'm lazy. Vibrators are the kinds of toys that pair really, really well with what I call junk food sex. Like, I still like my junk food sometimes. It's just easy because it's always going to work. But at the same time, the problem that I had run into over time that I realized was by relying on a vibrator, like that would get me from zero to orgasm a lot faster than going the natural way. And it was giving not necessarily false feedback, but like kind of because I would think that I was ready for penetration sooner because I was like, oh, I'm approaching orgasm. I must be ready for this. But my body wasn't actually adjusted to that. It hadn't been the full 40 minutes that we talk about so much of being able to fully expand and receive that kind of like a larger penetration. So as a result, when I did try to do that, it would still hurt. Like I could still orgasm, but it was like, why is there still pain here if I'm this close? Like the two of these are not related. With a
Yeah.
vibrator, I can orgasm much faster than that 40 minutes, but I need to not have anything, shall we say, upsize inside
Right.
at the same time.
Yeah, because what you're doing there is, yeah, you're skipping the engorgement period, right?
Exactly.
You're having an orgasm when you are not fully hard, essentially, is what it
Yeah.
comes to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the vagina version of that.
Right,
It's
right.
absolutely true.
I think, the coolest thing is learn how to work with the body without that and then bring it in like sometimes because
Yes.
extra, right?
Yes, I like to say use vibrators responsibly for that exact reason, right? You get used to what your body's doing and then bring them in as your pitch hitter, as like, okay, you just want to go over the finish line, or maybe you have already orgasmed just, with hands and non-vibrating toys and with your partner and whatnot. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I just want like six more before bed and I don't want to have to wait super
Bring on
long.
a really huge one, right? That makes you feel complete. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we all sometimes just have a headache and grab the vibrator, right? So so Katie, tell us about your favorite toys. What kinds of toys do you like?
Oh, I am very much a clit person with toys. Like I have a couple of I guess more internal toys, but for the most part, like I like a great classic bullet vibrator. I have like at least 5 or 6 of those. And
Mhm.
what really gets me is that you can tell so many of them are designed in part by people who don't actually have vulvas because of like all of the different vibration settings. Like most of us are never going to use most of those. And especially when I did the detox with Layla, I realized, oh my gosh, my default before was to try to move through the speeds of vibration a lot faster, as opposed to if you go a very long time without a vibrator, you can use it on the gentlest setting. Like that is my default now for all of them. And a lot of the ones that I was relying on before, they're just too powerful. I can only use those after I've been significantly turned on and worked up to that
Right.
point.
Yeah. And, we were speaking to like how long it takes to warm up and the vibrators kind of jumping the gun. But then, there are some kind of negative physical aspects of having that like forced orgasm, right? Yeah.
Yes, I have had so much experience with that too, where like it creates for me this low belly cramp afterwards that I wasn't understanding why I was getting this kind of pain. It's like I just had a delicious orgasm. Why is my body like not absolutely loving this and having quakes of pleasure afterwards? And it's like, oh, I think it's because I forced myself, like because the stimulation was so overwhelming that I wasn't doing the deep breathing. I was holding my breath, and then afterwards, my muscles are not happy. As opposed to if I'm going the gentler route, and especially if I'm remembering to breathe throughout, which is a lot easier to remember to do when you're not using a vibrator, then I'm going to have a more full-bodied experience. I know we've talked about that so many times. That's when it's not going to have any kind of unpleasant aftershock. You just get to enjoy the delicious waves.
Yeah. I don't know. We might agree on this topic a little more than we thought we did. Smoked it out.
Well,
Mm.
I will say, right now I don't have any glass toys. All of my toys are the vibrating types, except for a couple of really old dilators that I've just used as like tiny dildos.
Yeah. I've got both. I've got both. We like diversity here. So, but, another thing is, whether you like to use toys with a partner or only without a partner, right? And I'm pretty much like a no to using toys in partnered sex. I'm not going to say never, but it's just not even something that occurs to me in intimate moments typically. So, but that's me. I have no problem, with other folks who want to bring toys into the bedroom. I'm just kind of old school skin to skin manual kind of girl. Yeah.
Skin to skin is lovely, but I am absolutely big fan of toys for that. Especially with a long-term partner where you're like, hey, I got my favorites. Let me bring my favorites in here. I personally have used toys with every adult partner except for one. And you can imagine that that relationship died very quickly when I was like, here's my favorite toy. And he's like, that's weird. And we broke up like a week later. That was a mistake of my youth for that. But in general, as I hinted at this before, you can tell which partners are not used to vibrators in particular because if they don't have a vulva and they've never used one personally and you hand it to them and you're like, cool, you drive, this will be sexy. They turn it up all the way to the highest setting and you're like, whoa, 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 we're going to burn out my clit here. Please don't do that. So, like with any kind of sex that you're having with a partner, you have to teach them how to do things the way that you like them done because they're not going to be able to guess that. They don't have your body.
Yeah, but I mean, start slow, right? Like
Yes.
lowest, gentlest,
We
right?
talk about that. This is the phrase that you coined, Angela, incremental intimacy. You're starting slowly, you're building up over time, over experiences. This isn't like the very first time you get with someone. I wouldn't recommend like bringing out every single toy you own and trying everything for the very first time with that person. That would be way too much too soon.
Yeah. Take your time, take your time, take your time getting to where you're going. Don't rush. Don't rush to do that clit stimulation before
I was
it's
going to
time.
say, and please don't put anything directly on the clitoris right off the bat. We don't want to do that. You're going to burn it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Overstimulated clit is a numb clit and kind of game over at that point, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Nope. You want to be gentle on the skin in the gentle areas, please, people.
Yeah, yeah. So talking about skin, right? Speaking of skin and skin to skin, let's talk about dick size.
You know, we did a whole episode on that topic. It's one of our most popular ones, I think, especially on YouTube. It's season one, episode 10. Title is Does Size Matter? And
Mhm.
spoiler alert, yes, it does for us. Very, very much. So let's get into that. For me, anybody who knows me they know that I like small. In particular, I prefer thinner when I can find it because I have a history of vaginal pain at the opening to my vagina. And I just like the look of small ones in general. For me, it's just the cherry on top of this like perfect, handsome, masculine, approachable cis male body. I know it's going to fit me perfectly, so my body's naturally more relaxed and very excited, and they look so good in sweatpants, and I just like consensually do not want to keep my hands to myself. I'm number one biggest fan. Small, please. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, you can listen to that whole episode to get my opinions on this. I'm not into small the way Katie is into small. I'm maybe a little bit more of an equal opportunity penis lover, but I found something new, and I need to share this in this episode. So, I mean, I guess I should start out saying that am a student of shamanism. Okay, so I have Buddhist background, Tantra background. I've studied lots of different things. I'm wholeheartedly a shaman now. It is so my world. And from that growth experience of diving into shamanism, I have had some new sexual experiences, right? So I talk about tantric sex and energy sex all the time, and the shaman sex has just been off the hook. So I've been like, wow, I need to like find somebody who knows about shaman sex because I'm having experiences I didn't really even know were possible. So as a sex coach, I'm opening up my horizons constantly. And then I found this book that's kind of about shaman sex, as it were, right? It's about the teachings from the Nagual tradition. It's by Amara Charles. And when I got the book, I just kind of flipped through and bam, if this page didn't just catch my attention, all right?
Of course, you, as the former librarian, bring a physical book to an
I
episode of the podcast.
Not an audio, but you can't do this book as an audiobook, right? I'm really enjoying getting into this book. Um, so there's this handy dandy guide to the male anatomy in this book. The book is called The Sexual Practices of Quodoushka by Amara Charles. And I was like, oh my gosh, Katie and I have to talk about this, right? Because I think we know what Katie likes on this diagram
We
here.
know what I like. Definitely dibs on the top left. That,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Katie is into the coyote man, you know what I mean? And I think I've probably experienced just about every one of these genital anatomy types in my life.
Well,
I'm
they're all beautiful in their own way. I will say that. And I feel like on the right side, I've dated all of those guys. I just haven't ridden them for obvious reasons.
oh, actually, I think the favorite penis that I describe in the other episode might be Pitbull Man.
That's what I was thinking, that kind of that general shape.
Right. Well, the book goes into detail about like, what the shape of your penis may say about you and your sexuality. So it's kind of interesting. I'm getting into it, and but mostly I'm probably hanging in that elk man, deer man, ram man category over there. That's
The classics.
classics. Those are the classics. So that was my big visual for this holiday episode. It was not a slide deck. It was just one picture that
It was a slide dick.
God. Yeah. So I've actually only read so far in completion that chapter on male genital anatomy types. I dove right into that. I couldn't get past that intriguing graphic. But as time goes on in the podcast, I will be sure to report more of what I glean from the book, you know. And Caity was is into the smalls, into specifically maybe that coyote man. And I'm assuming that coyote man, you might want in your mouth, Caity. What do you think?
Oh, God. So, fun fact, I retired from blowjobbing like 8 years ago. It's been almost a decade at this point. I have never enjoyed them. I will say, I used to be very good at it, but like my heart wasn't really in it. And I know this is a shocking fact to several of my friends who absolutely love giving them. They're like, but you're a sex coach. You have to be all about the blowjobs. I'm like, well, individual preferences. That's not my thing. I would happily lick and kiss Mr. Coyote Man, like all over the skin. I especially love the smell, like first thing in the morning, that musk. It's delicious. Like I love playing with the organ itself. There's so much fantasticness there. I'm a hands girly. I like to touch. I'm very tactile and I hate jaw pain. I hate neck pain. I'm a picky eater. Like it's hard getting me to put anything in my mouth. So for me, there was such a huge turning point in my dating history in my 20s when I realized, oh, wait a second, this default that everybody's doing, you don't actually have to do that in relationships. There are no rules in relationships. It was so eye-opening at the time, and if you're thinking that this would be a huge issue in my dating life because this is something that so many men expect, it actually hasn't been an issue at all. I attract men who just prefer giving. They're very generous.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Nobody should be doing something sexual that they're not interested in doing. I think we can all agree with that, right? If you're not interested, you're just not flipping interested. And that's okay. And you're allowed to decide what you do and don't do in your bedroom, what you do and don't do in your relationships.
And please don't fake it. Your
Yeah,
partner can tell, and it's not body affirming for you.
yeah, but so I think the faking it of giving a blowjob because it's expected. Okay. I grew up in America in a time when I was taught by the media that blowjobs were just part of what you did, right? It was just part of the sexual experience. It was performative. I did them as was expected and didn't necessarily care for them that much. But then I had this really interesting experience. And back to the idea of not caring for them very much. I remember riding in a car with a friend of mine and she said something about like how her friend loves giving blowjobs and like, why would anyone love that? And I was like, right, why would anyone love that? And I totally agreed with her, so if you had caught me, 10, 15 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, Caity, why do that? That's ridiculous. I went to a glory hole party.
Of course you did.
This was a long time ago. This was a long time ago. It was probably like almost a decade ago. I went to a glory hole party and women and couples were allowed to be on the side of the wall of the women who were giving, right? So as a woman, I could go watch the women giving. And it blew my mind. I was watching women give blowjobs and really enjoy it. They were faking enjoying it. They were so flipping into it. And I was just like watching their enjoyment. And it kind of blew my mind because I was like, wait, there is something here. There is some aspect of giving a blowjob that I maybe haven't experienced yet, and I need to explore that. So I went on to kind of explore the angle of how can I enjoy this and how can I do it on my terms that it is for me and not for the receiver, right? So I kind of flipped my perspective on blowjobs into I'm giving because it gives me pleasure to give in this way. And I went on later to have a relationship with a Dom who taught me a great deal about how to deep throat. And I also actually at one point I took a blowjob class because I was like, ooh, maybe there's something I don't know, right? And no, I knew everything that was in the book. I was like, yeah, this is nothing new here. There were a couple of good tips around deep throating, and I took that into my Dom relationship and learned how to deep throat really well. And I got to be the queen of deep throating on a fellow colleague's video course on blowjobs. So my I've gone from like being like, oh, I do this performatively to like, oh my fucking God, I'm good at this. I love doing it, and I do it for me, not for anybody else. And it's a very different experience for me now. Blowjob.
I
Yeah.
love that story very much. And I would hope that's the approach that anybody takes to anything that they're doing sexually. You're doing it for you, for the love of giving that thing. And it doesn't
Mhm.
even matter what it is. Like this, this is why I'm tactile. I love the touching and that they still the kissing and the licking. And I'm sure the recipients of my affection, I'm sure they could feel that difference. And they would not enjoy getting a blowjob from me because I don't have that particular interest.
Yeah.
I would also like to point out, I've noticed in talking to people who do really, really enjoy giving them, they tend to, on the kink orientation, either be more submissive minded or more switch minded. There is an element of like that sexy power dynamic shift there too for a lot of people. I don't know, I probably can't say that's for everyone, but it is there for a lot of people. I've noticed that pattern.
And with all generalizations, there are outliers, but I don't think you're entirely wrong there, Katie. Yeah. When it comes to like blowjobs and other forms of cock worship, damn, does it help if you love the fuck out of that person? It's like it's performative unless you just totally adore them, right? Like that's my opinion. So, wow, we have been all over the place today. We have talked about blowjobs and dick size and lubrication. And, this is an agree to disagree episode. There are aspects that, we agree on and aspects that we don't. But when it comes down to it, I think what you were just pointing out at the end, Katie, really sums it all up. Don't do things in bed you don't want to do. And really try and come at your sexual experience as a way for you to express yourself authentically.
Yes, listen to your body, listen to your own pleasure, and start from there.
Yeah.
And that's all for this season of Quickies with Angela and Katie. Thank you for listening, and please follow us and leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
And if you'd like more great information on sex, love, and relationships, be sure to follow us both on social media. I'm on Instagram at Authentic Heart Coaching, and I'm on the web at AuthenticHeartCoach.com. I've got a great A-list mailing list that goes out once a week, so you can go to AuthenticHeartCoach.com and join it.
I love the pun there too, the A list for Angela. And you can find me on katiecoaches.com and on Instagram at katiecoaches.
And if you do wander on over to my website or my Instagram link tree, you're going to see I have a number of events coming up. I have a workshop called Sensual Connection for Couples that I am hosting in Annapolis on January 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. This is a great opportunity for anybody who's a little bit curious about Tantra, anybody that really wants to begin to expand or deepen their connection with their partner. Perfect workshop for all levels. I've got another super new, super incredible experience coming January 31st to February 2nd. I am hosting a virtual bed-in. You have heard me talking about my bed-ins here if you're a regular podcast listener. And the last time I had one with my partner, he was like, ooh, what if we guided other people to do this? What if we had a virtual experience? And I talked to a couple of other coaches, and I'm partnering with 2 other coaches, and we are going to bring you a whole weekend of events that you get to participate in from bed with your lover in this cold, dark time of year at the end of January. definitely get in on that. It's only $69 to participate. So no excuses. Get in bed for the weekend. And if you want to have an away, not an in-bed experience with your partner, I have a couples retreat coming up in May. It's almost sold out. I literally have room for one more couple. So definitely sign up for that ASAP if you want that last spot.
How sexy and romantic, especially on those last two. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, new freebie alert for everyone. We wrote a guide for men all about unlocking your woman's fullest expression of her sexuality. This is great for couples, either if your sex life is in a dry spell, or couples who are doing great and just want to be able to do even better by learning these very specific approaches and techniques and mindsets. This is completely free. We just ask for your email address in the sign up. So you can check that out at the link in the show notes. And as always, our pussy whispering on demand classes for men, for women, for couples are the crown jewel of this podcast. Learn how to have pleasure in bed like you never knew was possible because the sex ed you've had did not teach how to have vulva pleasure sex, vulva specific sex. This is very different from the penis focused sex that pretty much everyone is having by default, that actually secretly isn't that great for women overall. We teach you how to do it so much better. Pussy Whispering will unlock orgasms like she's never felt before. And you can learn more at pwclass.com. We've also always got that linked in the show notes. And with all of that said, we will see you next year for season 4 of Quickies with Angela and Caity.
See you then.